Okay, without further ado, guys, I'd like to welcome Juan Hazmer. I believe everyone has been waiting for a pretty long time for his panel.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so without further ado, please take it away.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. And the both of us have a history way back with Final Fantasy 15 and all that. But anyway, welcome to my talk. We'll be talking about how to integrate culture into your video games. And I feel very, very passionate about this topic because it's either this or how the air fryer has made worse impact to mankind. And, I'm very, very happy to be here at Exola Curing Academy. But the first thing I saw when I went into the room was this. Oh, cannot reach. It's okay. Did you press it? Oh, no, you sure? Okay, so yeah, this was the air fryer that I saw in Exola. So Exola, if you're here, please remove this right away. Just kidding, lah. So just a bit about myself. I used to be in Square Enix Tokyo for around. Square Enix. Yep. Where was I? Okay, so this show is not about Square Enix, by the way. Okay, just in case. So I was there for around 8 years, and I was lead game designer for the culture or the town team for Final Fantasy 15. I also did work on Final Fantasy Type 0, the PSP version as well, and pre-production of Lightning Returns as well. So talking about the culture team, basically it is a town team. In Japanese, it's called Kyotenhan, which is the town. But for English-speaking speakers, it's Tabata-san thought it would be nicer if he says culture team, because it sounds cooler, apparently. But yeah, so I'm known to be the roti canai guy. But it's very easy to just say the roti canai guy or the satay guy and all that. But it took a long while to reach this point in Final Fantasy 15, because obviously if I will just tell Square Enix I want to put roti canai in the game, they will kill me. Okay, because I need to do a lot of convincing, and I need to do a lot of, we need a lot of context for the content in the game as well. So they're not just going to put just Malaysian food for fun, right? Which I will explain how in the talk. Oh yeah, satay as well. And now I am the CEO and game director of Metronomik. I decided, Sabina, you're here. John, you're there as well, yep. So yeah, we have few people here in Metronomik. So I decided to come back to Malaysia and make my own studio called Metronomik with my cousin, whose name is Daim. He was the concept artist for Street Fighter V, illustrator for Street Fighter 4. He also animated for Final Fantasy 14 as well. So he's still in Japan, by the way. He doesn't want to come back, so I come back, basically. So just in case you don't know our debut game, No Straight Roads, here's a little trailer.
Today we stand up against NSR.
You are so naive to think that rock is still relevant.
We are gonna hijack their concert. It's time we fight EDM with the power of rock. 1, 2, 3.
DJ Subatomic Supernova!
All right, that was Encore edition. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Encore. Yeah, the encore will be Onde Onde, but I'm not going to announce that today. Okay. Yeah, our next game is Onde Onde, by the way. This game was made by an amazing team, the very amazing, talented team. So you know, I see Malaysian companies in Tokyo Game Show. I saw them, and then I was thinking. I left for Japan in 2008, and Malaysia has changed so much since then. You know, a lot more talent, a lot more passion as well for video games. But I thought that maybe I can bring in some know-how from Square Enix and steer talents to the right direction. But yeah, amazingly, this game was made by most of the people in the team were inexperienced. They have never created a game before, right? They either just graduated or they were an accountant. So one of the tech artists was an accountant, by the way, before he joined Metronomik as an environment artist. His name is Hafiz. And then we have people who come from the outsourcing companies as well. So, but they have not created their own original IP before. So yeah, it's an amazing feat, for Malaysians and also Southeast Asia. We have Indonesians as well to be able to make that game. Together with a Singaporean sound design company called Imba Interactive as well. So yeah, it's very proudly Southeast Asian. For those of you who, I don't know whether you are in Prime, Amazon Prime being Malaysians. You are? Oh, you must be rich. But if you are in Amazon Prime, you can play the game for free, by the way, okay? Okay, so first of all, I'm not going to touch so much about this because I want everyone to be on the same page with me. Okay, culture is important, right? I know you love your anime. Okay, yes, that's great, but you can always incorporate something that's unique to you in your own game. All right, but let me just briefly explain why culture is important. So back in before video games, not to say before video games, but we also have linear media as well, like animation, movies, TV series, etc. So usually what happens is when you want to get the rights to broadcast it, what you have to do is you have to go to all the different countries to ask for the rating and also to ask for the broadcasting rights. Then only you're able to show the movie or TV series or whatsoever. But now, in the digital industry, yeah, this is why cannot trust the digital industry. Okay lah, just use the mouse. So for the digital industry, what you need to do is just to upload the game on some portal, right? Steam or whatever, App Store, and then bam, you get the whole game, the game played by many, many people. But the problem is that you will also have, at the same time, the amount of criticisms, right? So you will be able to say good comments, you'll also be able to see bad comments, right? So how do we make sure that we make it more unique and make people like your game? So you know SWOT analysis, right? Right? Do you like SWOT analysis? Yeah, you like it, right? Yeah, it sucks. So strength, weakness, opportunity, threat. A very common way to define what the competitiveness of your game, right? The problem with that is that you are going to compare your game with many other games, and you're going to do that a lot. And in fact, solely just that. So because of that, you'll be doing a lot of SWOTs, and everyone else is going to do their SWOTs as well. And what's going to happen is you're going to end up in the ocean infested with sharks, meaning that you'll be fighting in the same space as many other people. This is what we call the red ocean, okay? So I would like to invite everyone to not just compare your game with other people's games, but think what your game can do, what you can do. So is a section called the blue ocean. Basically, you're not going to fight in the same space as them, right? So for example, if you're thinking of making, say, a battle royale, for example, then you might want to rethink because you might be fighting in this space, you know? So you can make a battle royale, no problem. It's just that, is battle royale fit for your idea? Even, you know? If you want to express something, maybe there's a better genre to do it, for example. So I did this talk back in Level Up KL 2022, I think. So I think that Red Ocean stops at comparing with other games, but what you can do, right? So in other words, Uncharted, but Hang Tuah. You know, the first thing that people ask me to do when I announce that I'm going to open a Metronomik is, can you make a game like Uncharted, but Hang Tuah elements? I'm like, what does that even mean? You know, so so I can just reskin the entire Uncharted. You know, you can always download the mods and make your own Hang Tuah game if you want, but that's not what I want to do. And I think if you do that, then you will lose to Uncharted, for sure. So what I invite everyone to do is to instead think what you can do that others cannot do. So it's the other way around, you know? You think of yourself first, then only you think about other people, right? So in other words, what you or your team can do. So for example, if your team is full of car enthusiasts, then maybe you should make a racing game or a car mechanic simulator game. I don't know, okay? And what a music-based game can do. So in Metronomik, what we do is we want to make games that are centric on rhythm, but they are not rhythm games. So what can we do that other people can? So for example, for No Straight Roads, we were comparing a lot with other action games, but I kept on telling the game designers, look, if you see this action in another game, and if it works, then it's not for our game. It's as simple as that, like, you know. So try your best to come up with many, many things that other games cannot replicate, for example. And finally, of course, what a Southeast Asian can do, okay? So in other words, you yourself. So that's why I think culture is very, very important because it will define what your game is. And also it will give you confidence to know who you are, actually. But I will get into that more later. So the result of us putting culture into our game is this. We had a bunch of non-Malaysians on streams doing something like this.
Magnificence, the one and only.
Holy crap, I love these grooves.
Oh my god, this is sick. I love this game, dude.
Holy shit, this is so cool. I love this.
Qué gracia, tío. Tienes que verlo tú de forma que choquen en las palmas, ¿sabes?
Yep, so we had a DK Barat stage in No Straight Roads. Aptly, the boss's name is DK West, even if you haven't noticed that already. Barat is West. So we had a bunch of non-Malaysian streamers shouting "Ewa" on the stream. You know, I mean, they don't even have to know what that means, you know, but it just says something about how non-Malaysians are willing to accept your culture if you do it correctly, right? The very, very common thing that some Malaysians think is that when you see something that's low quality, you'll say, hey, local lah, you know, which means low quality, you know, and we don't have to make it that, you know, if you do it well. So, oops, sorry. How do I go to the next page? Crap. Sorry, because the laptop is all the way at the other side. Oh, there we go. Okay. So this is the buyer distribution of No Straight Roads. As you can see, Southeast Asia only 5%. We have a lot of users coming from USA and Canada. And considering that it's a game made by a lot of people who were inexperienced, including PlayStation Plus and all that, we have more than 500,000 people who play the game. Thank you, thank you. So this is in consideration that the game costed $39.99 US. Yeah, so it's not a very cheap price for an indie game, but we had a lot of people buying it. We also had the collector's edition. How many units, Idea? 10,000. So 10,000 units of collector's edition sold within the 2 days or so, something like that. You know, very, very fast. And again, a lot of the audience that bought out, a lot of the buyers that bought our collector's edition, I think very little Malaysians, mostly people from overseas. Okay, so the common, I guess, dilemma that we have when it comes to adapting your culture is two things. Whether there's too little culture or there's too much, right? Is it short sendiri, self-indulgent, or is it you're pandering too much to other people? So this is what this talk is about, right? How to do this effectively is the core of this presentation. Okay, so first one, weave your reality into others. Into theirs, sorry. So for example, you know, let's talk about travel, right? So I'm a huge fan of traveling. I travel all over the place, wherever I can, of course, and whenever I have the time. But let's not talk about the joys of travel, okay? Let's talk about the horrible parts of travel. Okay, like money, for example, trying to book your hotel, buses didn't come in time, your flight got delayed, you just got pickpocketed, your passport disappeared, lost luggage, etc., etc. So when a person goes to travel, they also face all these dilemmas, right? So there's a very nice book called Why Travel Matters by Craig Shorty. Storty. Storty. No body shaming. Craig Storty. So what he said is that in a lot of researchers said that subjectively speaking, it takes longer to go to, not subjectively speaking, more like, what is it called? It feels like that the trip to the destination is feels longer than coming back. And the reason is because you are so overwhelmed with information, right, when you're going there. And if you're the type of person who is the planner of the group, usually I am, so a lot of stress, of course, right? And you are responsible for the entire team as well. And then coming back, of course, you're already relieved. You will sleep in a plane, most probably, and you're already familiar with the Grab on the way from the KLIA to your house, you know, so you feel much more relief and the trip feels shorter. Unless if you really love that place. For example, if you love Japan, you go to Japan, coming back will be longer, right? But let's talk about, talking generally speaking here. I would like to talk about my late mom a bit. So my mom, when I travel with her, there's one thing that I really didn't like about traveling with her, and that was that whenever she eats something or she looks at something, for example, if she goes to France and she sees this, ni macam sotong sumbat kat Terengganu ni. You know, it's like the thing I eat in my hometown. You know, for example, it's completely destroying the the traveling aspect of the whole thing. But as I grew older, I begin to appreciate it more. You know, because it just comes to show that there are way more similarities with other cultures than you think, right? So yeah, the French, the Italian, whatever, they might be proud of this, and voila, we also have our own sotong sumbai as well. And there are many, many similarities to the point that you sometimes can see what this is or where this is, right? So do you know where it is? Japan. Do you know why you know it's Japan? Tomare, the stop, even the line, the order of the buildings, the what do you call it, the electric poles, right? How close they are. They also have to be mostly above ground, you know, stuff like that, right? The reason you know this is because you know how Malaysia or your hometown looks like. You know, Malaysia does not have tomare. It does not have the electric poles, like this dense, So, out of this concept, they made a game called GeoGuessr, right? Where you're given a Google Map image and you have to guess where it is, or not even the country, but you have to pin exactly where the road is. And there's a thing called speed running, GeoGuessr speed running, okay? And here's a video about it. So yeah, that's geoguessing speedrun. It's really crazy. His name is, I think, Rainbolt, right? Yeah, and my God, he can pin the place, within 10 seconds, and it's only 100 to 300 meters away from the actual place. It's really crazy. And there's a video where he just saw the sky. That's it. It's a no move, no panning, no something challenge, right? Within 10 seconds, he knew where the sky came from. Just the sky alone. It's crazy.
Welcome to the world of...
Okay, so let me bring you to a place where all drivers are very nice and polite. Penang. Sorry, Sabina. When I was in Georgetown, you can see the parking lots and how they are not used, right? They just simply parked. And, Penang, they are very well known to have very narrow roads. The reason is because the road is actually not narrow. The cars parked illegally at the side makes the road narrow, And that makes Georgetown so interesting, Sabina. It makes Georgetown so interesting. So I actually referred to illegal parking in Final Fantasy 15. So when you drive to Lesterlum, what happened is that you can see all the cars being illegally parking at the side. You don't see that in other towns in Final Fantasy 15, only here, showing off my Malaysian culture a bit. the good parts, So it's little things like this that people, they might not notice straight away, but they can feel that it's different because they can compare it with other places that they're familiar with, right? And I think that's what you have to do. You have to find those similar matrices and see what you can introduce that will clash with the metrics that they already know, okay? Also, I think the Japanese people are really good with this, right? For example, the concept of school itself. Everyone knows school. I mean, at least people who are privileged to go to school, Or at the very least, a lot of people see school in media, right? So, for example, in Doraemon, you can already see a setting of a school. In fact, for the Japanese, the reason why they do this is because a lot of, I would say, otakus or anime fans, they want to go back to the good old times. You know what I mean? So showing things in school helps a lot. So you even have shows about basketball featured in school, right? Who cares about the NBA and all this? Let's show a bunch of students playing basketball. That's way more relevant for a lot of people. How about ninja? Okay, introduce a school as well. So you have ninja school now, Or even so, even the Western companies, they also refer to anime for this. For example, a game about this very normal girl in Doki Doki Literature Club, right? So even dating sims, because school is the time when, okay, maybe you're married already. I'm happy, by the way. But maybe you want to go back to the time when you were trying to flirt with this girl, whatever. So that's why dating sims exist, basically, right? And we have a French company that did a game about American school, right? This Life is Strange, right? Donut is a French company. You wouldn't believe it when you play it for the first time because it feels super American, And they captured the essence very nicely. Although this is more like a club room or whatever, but you can tell the lecturer is just casually sitting. Just looking at this alone, you can tell it doesn't feel like a normal Japanese school, for example. And then all the kids are wearing casual clothes. So it's not a Malaysian school already, for example. Things like this. So little things like this. And then we have this amazing game, The Space for the Unbound, as well. A lot of people love this game because, of course, it was showing, a unique culture based on a school. When they see this, they know it's not their school, but they know it is a school, right? And we also have the latest game from, Sailor Vault, which is the Paper Ghost Stories. Yeah. I showed you many games. I showed you 3 games. Life is Strange, Space for the Unbound, and this one, Paper Ghost Stories. They all have different art direction, but they all have the same relevance. When you see it, you know it's a school already, and if something bad were to happen, then there's a gap, for example. That's why Battle Royale started in a school, with the setting of a school, because there's a gap between the joy of friendship and killing each other, basically, right? So that is the first point, okay, to weave your culture into theirs. The second one is aim to entertain. I can't stress this enough. Game developers, you all are entertainers. Okay? You are there to entertain people. Yes, you might make a game to educate someone, but the education is useless if it doesn't come with entertainment, or else might as well become a textbook writer, right? But you are game developers, okay? So we, in Southeast Asia or even in Malaysia, we have gasing, right? But it has been beaten by this guy, Beyblade. Just check out his face as he tramples on your culture, right? So, we lost the culture race. Japan is way better at this, We should step up our game, basically. Now everyone knows that gasing is not called gasing. It's called Beyblade, right? And the thing that they did with Beyblade was super interesting, right? To, knock that guy out, and it comes with super duper over-exaggerated action scenes and all this. So this is how you introduce, more impact into the relevance, basically. In Final Fantasy 15 as well, when I started the culture team, when I became the lead game designer of the culture team, I brought everyone together, around 50 plus of team members. We sat down in a meeting room, and the first thing I showed them was this. The future. So I hope I'm not too old to know what movie this is. This is Back to the Future 2, my favorite movie of all time. Yes, Back to the Future 1 has better writing, but this is way more interesting to me, all right? But the reason why I showed this was because Final Fantasy 15, the main user experience that they wanted was they wanted a bunch of handsome guys to travel through a realistic yet fantastical world on a road trip, So the keyword is a road trip. So what makes a road trip interesting? So obviously, in any JRPG, you have traveling, right? You go to different cities. Obviously, the cities are very different than your own. It's medieval, it's isekai, whatever lah, okay? It's native isekai. I hate that term so much. Anyway, so, but what I wanted to do with the road trip was what will make it different than other games with traveling is culture shock. So I wanted to introduce culture shock, and I thought this movie did the best when it comes to culture shock. So it started out with a alleyway, then it slowly showed the fashion. It's really, really masterclass cinematography, you know. And then they only showed the flying car after you get out of that alleyway. You know, so it's slowly showing the culture shock one by one. I don't need to explain the concept of this movie, right? Okay. I hope not. But anyway, yeah, he's from 1985, traveled to 2015, and that's what he sees, the first thing he sees. Okay. Anyway. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, so the result of that was Lestalem, a town in Final Fantasy 15, and this was the first concept art. Well, not to say the first, but the first major concept art for Lestalem by Matsuzawa-san, amazing concept artist. His art can be put in a museum. Seriously, you know, it's just that good. But you can see from here already that first of all, you see very, very interesting architecture that you don't see in other parts of Final Fantasy 15. Not only that, you can see that it is a bit hot, I guess, in a way, right? Because of the trees. And there is a big electric generator building at the back. And it might not be obvious, but there's also a cable car right in the middle of this very, not super advanced looking city, but there's suddenly something very advanced at the back, you know? So this is the layer of the culture shock that you can see in just one concept art, you know? So can you imagine a clip from Back to the Future 2 has actually led to this, right? And the reason is because we had a direction, and the direction was to introduce culture shock, and culture shock is one, to summarize it, culture shock is a way to entertain people, right? To entertain travelers, basically. So I invite everyone to become an invisible tour guide, right? You're a game developer, obviously, unless you want to be Kojima and put your face in the game, fine. But I think most of us, we don't put our face in the game, so you become an invisible tour guide. You know, for example, when someone from the US tells you that I want to go to Malaysia, you know, you will come up with some itinerary, right? Which will include eating durian, obviously, you know, stuff like that. You know, so you want to introduce culture shock a bit, and then, but you also show the nice parts of Malaysia. Then you bring him back to the durian place, you know, and stuff like that. You know, and you bring some stomach medicine, all that. So yeah, culture shock. You know, the entertainment value of a game is way more important than educating the people on the culture, basically. One of my favorite mangas of all time is Aria. Okay, so Aria is a manga about, how do I summarize it? So Earth is polluted in the near future. So what happened was the mankind went to Mars, terraformed the entire place to become Venice. So Mars has become Neo Venezia, you know. And the story is about a girl coming from Earth who wants to be a gondolier in Neo Venezia. So you can see a lot of interesting cultures here, including airship and a citadel hanging in the sky to control the weather. And you have a huge facility below to control the gravity, because Mars gravity is different than Earth, for example. And then, of course, the entire Venetian world. And also fantastical elements. There's also a huge cat called Kate Sith also. And all this stuff, you know. So I recommend you to read this manga or watch the anime. It can be a bit cutesy, just to warn you. I am not a super big fan of very, very moe anime. But if you can withstand that, this is worth to read or watch. Okay, so Aria was a huge inspiration for the town of Altissia in Final Fantasy 15 as well. a lot of games, usually what they do is, when you want to introduce to a new city, you have a gradation, right? For example, let's say you are in a snowy area and you want to go to a volcanic city. So first of all, you go out and then it slowly becomes dry. And then suddenly you see the magma, then only you reach the volcanic city, right? But for No Straight Roads, our main objective is to make sure that they're all feel segregated, you know? So from one town to another, there was no gradation at all. It just bam, Akihabara-like, then bam, forest-like and all that stuff. So that is the concept of the game, basically, to introduce much more sharp culture shock. Okay, so that was the second point. The third point is to leverage on variety, all right? So what does this mean? Usually when you do a lot of towns for your game, you will come up with this kind of metrics. What's the economy for every town? What's the politics? So this is actually good practice, okay? But I think we are not Wikipedia. Okay, so we are game developers, and we have to think more about the user experience. So I would recommend something like this, for example, and this is something that we did for Final Fantasy 15 as well. How would the people react to you? Will they wave hands or not? For example, what's the food culture in there? What's the weirdest architecture? For example, so it's more about the road trip itself. But I think something that I want to highlight is this last column over here, how fantastical it is, you know? So, for those of you who've played Final Fantasy 15, or who cosplayed as a Final Fantasy 15 character, this is actually the graph of the towns in the game. So, the beginning city was realistic, and it slowly became more fantastical as you go, you know? And the last city is fantastical. That's why it's Final Fantasy. No, just kidding. That joke was made by one of the Metronomik members. But yeah. So that's why you start the game with pushing the car. I don't know whether you remember that. So there's no other Final Fantasy that starts the game with you pushing the car because it ran out of gas. You know, so that's as realistic as you can be. So starting from a petrol station, and slowly it becomes more fantastical, and that's why if you look at this, if you're a plumber, like what the hell is this, you know? But who cares, because you're already at that point of the graph. And for No Straight Roads, it can be as simple as just shapes. So this is something that our CG director, Gerald, who is now the art director in Larian, so what he did was to define every single town. He did just define the shape, and that's what he did. He just defined shapes. Okay, this was for the DJ, it's round. For Sayu, it's a bit more cube because it's pixel basically, and then forest, and then more equalizer-like, and then more artistic, abstract or artistic. And that's how we laid out the whole entire, there are a bit of changes, but this is how we laid out the level of Violent City, And by the way, in case you didn't notice as well, so the roads might be crooked, but the fastest way was actually a straight road, all the way to the tower, But that's the boring way. So sometimes no straight roads is the correct answer as well. Blah, 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 concept, but yeah, there was a lot of thought being put into how the roads were made in No Straight Roads, ironically speaking. And we have all these towns made by Ellie, and I mentioned to you before, Ellie, our concept artist, really talented. But, there's no gradation, basically. Bam, then suddenly bam, straight away, because they're all different layers of a disc. So that was the concept. So yeah, and last but not least is to know your culture thoroughly. Okay, sorry, let me drink water. Okay. So I'm a very big fan of quiz shows. Very, very, very big fan. I watch a lot of British shows, The Chase, Only Connect, And I used to watch a lot of American shows before they got dumbed down, uh, like 1 versus 100 and all this. And I watch a lot of game shows in Japan. And the reason why I love to watch their game shows is because the game shows are entertaining, but they teach the Japanese people on their own culture. You know, like what are the flowers in, in the country. For example, the different prefectures, what are their specialties? What are the tourists? A lot of tidbits of knowledge of the different places in Japan. And I want to highlight this one. So this is called Chiko-chan ni shikarareru kana? And the basis of this quiz show is this girl. Inside is a 50-year-old man, by the way. And the face is CG'd on, so it's a very, very animated face. She is a 5-year-old, eternally 5 years old, and she will always try to question the adults, the most basic of things. For example, why do you prefer cold water compared to hot water? For example, have you thought of that? So stuff like you can check on Wikipedia later. And there is this very, very interesting question also about Japan traffic lights. How many of you have been to Japan? Okay. For those of you who have been to Japan, have you heard this song before? No? So that is a song being played at the traffic light for pedestrian. But it has changed recently to choo, 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 choo. So the little girl was asking, why? Why is it choo, choo, choo? Can anyone guess? Not the Metronomik people, huh? You all know already. Can anyone guess why traffic lights in Japan has this choo, choo, choo bird chirping? You move faster. No, when it's time to move faster, it's a different chirp. Yes. Okay, that's great. That's a good start. So it's very great for blind people. Okay. Why do they need to do that though? Oh, I see. Well, it's good to sell the culture, yes. But I think it's closer to what he said, which is blind, for blind people. But the next question is then why choo, choo, choo then? Why not just play a song or just choo, 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 choo? Because it's very relaxing, okay? Bird chirping, right? Okay, yes. But why would you want to introduce variety? Less boring. Okay. I mean, valid idea. Yes. Sorry? Nature? No. So before that was a song, but it became a chirp because there's a lot of noise. That's why a bird chirp would be much more audible. But yes. Timing of? Yeah, it'd be faster, but why one chirp and two chirps? So the answer is it's one chirp for one side and two chirps for the other side. So if you're a blind person, you're going from one chirp to the two chirps, or you're traveling from the two chirps to the one chirp. So the corners have the same number of chirps, and the other opposite corner also has the same number of chirps. That's why it's one chirp and two chirps. The more you think about this, the more you get educated about this, the more you think, man, Japan is so kind, right? And that is true, And the Japanese people appreciate their culture more because of this, right? And a lot of foreigners also appreciate Japanese culture because of this. But this will not happen if you do not investigate why the chirps happens once and twice, right? So knowing your culture thoroughly is very, very important so that you can incorporate these little tidbits in your game as well. I had a little quiz. I made a little quiz for our, Sabina, you're there. Idia, you're there too. Quiz night for our company trip. And this was one of the questions. What was Malaysia's time zone between 1942 and 1945? Can anyone guess? Right. Yes. +9. Correct. Wonderful. Give it a applause. Yep. Good job. So yeah, it's Japan because Japanese conquered and they wanted it to be the same time zone as them. Yeah. Thank you, Japan. Sorry, my wife. But yeah, I mean, so it's +9. And, you know, just now when I brought up the person who's asking me Uncharted but Hang Tuah, you know, rather than talking about Uncharted, do you know anything about Hang Tuah at all? How about the introduction of Islam to Malaysia, for example? That's part of Hang Tuah as well. How about Silat? What are the different poses of Silat? You know, if you do a lot of research, it will definitely not become Uncharted. It's just as simple as that. The more you know your own culture, the more you research into it, the less likely another game will be similar to it. As simple as that. Okay? And we have coffee talk as well, right? And this, STMJ, right? Which has a raw egg in the drink, you know? So that surprised a lot of Japanese when they played the game. And if I'm not mistaken, STMJ was also served in the Coffee Talk Cafe in Parco Shibuya as well. And let's go back to Final Fantasy 15, my favorite game of all time. So when I told the team that I wanted to introduce Malaysian culture, of course, they asked me why I would do it. And in fact, I didn't suggest it straight away. I was trying to look for some context that leads to this, you know? So we have a town that is very, very foreign. So and I showed them the hotels back in Taiping or Kuala Kangsar, where we have all this, you know, very, I wouldn't say Peranakan, very British colonial looking hotels, right? We have that as well. We introduced also a Middle Eastern market. And, you know, it was a long discussion, very long discussion before we actually have the VFX artists doing this freaking, very difficult to create teh tarik sequence. You know, it took a long time for that to happen. And then, you know, and that's when suddenly everything fits into place. A place with Cuban architecture, Middle Eastern markets, and Malaysian food culture. And the NPCs in Lestalem stays up until 3 a.m. to eat, compared to the other cities in Final Fantasy 15. So play Final Fantasy 15 again, and you will see that. And that's how it led to the most gorgeous roti canai in 3D space ever. You know, so yeah, it's when you introduce context and you know more about your culture and you don't just show roti canai, I want roti canai please, you know, you show the whole entire package, you know, the Taiping hotels, you know, when you do that, a lot more people in your team will appreciate it, and your fans, the players of your game will also appreciate it. And, you know, yeah, Hainanese chicken rice, of course, you know. So, yeah, that's how, if you introduce your whole culture as a package, you would sell better, okay, as a developer and also as the seller of the game. All right. So that ends my presentation. Sorry. So to summarize, 4 points. First of all, you weave both realities together, your reality and their reality. And then you aim to entertain. Very important, don't just be an educator. First and foremost, you are an entertainer, okay? Next, leverage on variety. So your culture is not single dimension, no, you know, it's multidimensional. Try to introduce it by either introducing a graph that simply shows how it escalates, or even introducing shapes, like a circle represents laksa, square is this kueh, you know, something simple like that can help to, you know, get the whole team on the same page, right? And last but not least, to know your culture, okay? Know your culture better, don't just say Uncharted by Hang Tuah, okay? What is Hang Tuah? Who is Hang Tuah? What is Melaka? What year did he come in? When did Parameswara come in? Blah, 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 all this. Okay, then only you can make a better game with much more integrated culture. All right, and last but not least, as you can see already, because I love to do this kind of thing, walk. Just walk outside and try to see why the roads have potholes, for example. You know, there is a scientific reason why there are more potholes in Malaysia. Okay, it's not just the government, huh? Okay, why the trees are arranged in such a way, why is the pavement colored like this, for example. Just walk outside, try to question all this rather than just taking it for granted, Wikipedia it, and you'll know yourself better. All right? Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, so I would like to open for a quick Q&A. So before I ask, walk, if I run, can I? Okay, so, okay, can. So who would like to ask some questions? We open up the floor for Q&A. Oh, okay. Let me walk all the way here. Cannot run. He said cannot run, right? So I have to walk. Okay, here you go.
Hello. Okay. So
Hi.
my question is, if you look back at your journey, what are the things that you have learned, or even you have experienced that you wish you know, like you have to like you have learned about it, and what are the things that you could wish youngsters could learn in
Oh,
this
wow.
like gaming industry?
I see. Oh, that's a very broad question, but thank you so much. So what I learned in Square Enix, you mean? What I learned in Square Enix or in Metronomik that I wish that all the youngsters would learn? Well, of course this. Well, a lot of things, I guess. But I think one of the things that I really love to, advocate is user experience lah. Seriously. A lot of people always think of games as game mechanics, but games are not only game mechanics. Doesn't only consist of game mechanics, I mean, you know. There's story, there's graphic, there's art and music, and people only think that if the game mechanic is fun, then the whole game will be fun. That is not true. Okay, the whole entire experience as a package is very important, you know. Just not the tour guide kind of underlines that lah, basically. You know, that at the end of the day, the game will be, you know, digested by your user. You know, your user will have a certain, you know, takeaway from the game, right? Is that a good takeaway, or is there no takeaway at all? You know, so for me, that's very important when I create a game. The first thing I will say, I will try to define wherever I can is the user experience. So just now for Final Fantasy 15, it was a bunch of handsome bros traveling through the realistic and fantastical world on a road trip. For No Straight Roads, your music can change the world. That's why your music can transform the prop. That's why your music can spin an entire city. And your music can also change the way the background music changes, slowly from EDM to rock, for example. So it's all about change. Onde will be something else. I can't say it yet, but I can tell you that it's also a very interesting UX as well. Okay. Yep.
Okay, oh, okay. These two, okay. You can take turns, I guess. Who want to go first? Junken? Oh, they're going. Okay, you can go first.
All right. Hi, Wan.
Hi.
Thank you for the talk. It was very inspiring,
Ah,
and
no problem.
I
Thank
learned
you.
a lot.
Thank you.
I want to share a bit of like how I got to know you and No Straight Roads. I bought the game on the first day when it launched on Epic Games. I paid it in USD when it was still showing USD price. Yeah, and I enjoyed the game very much. Yeah. So my question to you.
I did not hire him to be here, by the way. Everyone, just in case you.
So my question to you is, I know you're a very busy person. So how do you, like now, find the time to make the time to like walk what you just say? Like how do you find the time to expand your horizons? Yeah.
What? Oh, sorry. What did you say? I sleep at 5 in the morning. No, don't listen to him. Okay, so how do I find the time? I guess walk is not something that you have to dedicate your time to. You know? For example, it can be as simple as just looking out your window right? Or, and also, of course, I have to travel to a lot of game shows, so I'm busy with that as well. So I also take the time. Oh yeah, by the way, one of my policies of traveling overseas, even for business, is I must have at least 1 day of free time. So that is always, whenever I tell the organizers of the game shows, if you want to buy the flight tickets for me, at least buy it 1 day later. I can pay for the hotel, no problem. But please, 1 day later after that, something like that. So it's not that hard to make time, to be honest, as busy as I am. I still have a bit of time for City Skylines too, for example. To the dismay of Ilya, but yeah, and even simple things like when you take your Grab back to your house rather than sleeping, just look outside, right? Or in fact, just look at the Grab driver. You might learn some things or two, right? Yeah, there's so many things to learn from even Exola's, this academy, How is it built? You can feel how spacious the lobby is, for example. Why is the ceiling so high, for example. But to be honest, it helps that I really love urban planning. So I can tell you that if I couldn't become a game developer, I might become an urban planner instead. Because Kuala Lumpur needs a lot of help.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Oz. Just a quick question. With your time at Square Enix, what happened to Final Fantasy Versus 13? I was kidding. Actual question. No, genuinely, and maybe just to bring it back to Southeast Asia, I'm looking around the room, right? You have a lot of amazing developers here, whether they be new developers or seasoned developers. I actually don't think we're in a phase here in Southeast Asia where cultural representation is an issue. If you walk around a lot of the show floor over there, you see a lot of our Malaysian culture in independent games. The question that I'm curious your answer of is, what is the appetite for publishers, funding allocators, media, when it comes to culture? I'm curious if No Straight Roads is strategy, whether it be from a funding side, a partnership side, or a media coverage side. Do you focus on pushing the cultural narrative, or what is the appetite from international players?
Okay, so very good question. To answer your first question, what happened to verse 13 was okay. Shall we give a 3-hour talk on that? To answer your more relevant question, first of all, there's definitely appetite for Malaysian culture, for sure. However, they're not out there to purchase a game with Malaysian culture. Does that make any sense? They're not looking for Malaysian culture. They're looking for good games in the first place. If it has Malaysian culture, yes, that's an added bonus, for sure. And of course, some publishers even, they want to expand their horizon. So first of maybe you have a publisher like, for example, Sold Out, our publisher for No Straight Roads, they only publish European games and American games, but they have never published a Southeast Asian game before. So they were looking in Southeast Asia for a game to publish, right? So yes, we did advertise, especially Onde Onde. Especially Onde Onde, it's chock full of Malaysian culture, and that's how we sold the game. But if it's just Malaysian culture that's holding your game, then that's bad. And that's why it goes to my second point, where it has to be an entertainment, media first, then only Malaysian culture second, As sad as it sounds, right? But if you cannot entertain a player, then what's the use of putting the culture in, especially in video games, right? So yes, we don't have a problem with cultural representation, but we have a huge problem with cultural marketing, right? As I said just now, Gasing, that's gone, right? When I was working in Square Enix, I asked my colleague, do you know anything about Malaysia? Then he said, oh, is it the one with the Malayan? And when I asked him whether, do you know any Malaysian food at all? No, I don't know. But they know that nasi goreng comes from Indonesia, chicken rice comes from Singapore, and tom yum comes from Thailand. But they cannot answer the question of what is a Malaysian food. I had to go to a bookstore, buy a Malaysia travel guide, and put it on my shelf. So if they ask me, so what's Malaysia about? Nah, you know, because it's a lot of explanation. They don't even know what nasi lemak is, which is one of the best food in the world, you know. Every time I bring foreigners here, including Idir, so Idir, by the way, we used to work together. He was in Square Enix Europe. He's from France, but he's now working together in Metronomik. So I brought him to Village Park Nasi Lemak. I brought a lot of publishers to Village Park and all that, and they really love the food, and they can't understand why they didn't know about this food earlier. It's very simple. We don't know how to market. Okay, so none of the Japanese still know. And if you're talking about Malaysian restaurants in Japan, very few, very few. Because what will you dish out? Can anyone tell me? I tell you, if you dish out uyong tofu, you'll be a seller. For sure, it's like oden but with fish. Fish. Japan, duh, you know. So if you know, it's just about marketing. Like, you know, there are two problems in Malaysian culture lah. First of all, we're too kind. I think we are really too kind. We don't go out there and hey Malaysian nasi lemak, here you go. You know, we think that if you want eat lah, I think it's nice. You know. Second, we are a melting pot of cultures, but that also means that it's not easy to sell the culture as well. So if we sell Yong Tau Fu, they say, hey, this one Chinese food, very nice. They think it's mainland China maybe. You know, not Malaysian Chinese, right? So a lot of hurdles when it comes to cultural marketing. But if it's layered by an interesting game, then that's a totally different issue. And video games for me is the easiest way to market your culture because again, as I said, one button push, bam, you release it to the world. If you find a very good publisher who believes in you, right? You know, for example, Toge Productions has done a great job as well in that regard, you know, for Space for the Unbound Adult. And our publisher also, you know, in a way, has made a lot of streamers play our game and shout AY on the stream, you know. So yeah, if you find a good partner who believes in you, who believes in Malaysian culture, who believes that your game can sell. So this is the most important thing lah. Publishers, they're not looking for a game with Malaysian culture. They're looking for a game that can make them money, obviously. You know, so if Malaysian culture is the one that can sell the game that can make them money, then yes, all the power to them and you lah. So yeah, a lot of complications and not very easy to answer the question. But yeah, cultural marketing is something that we have to excel. Hopefully we can do that.
Okay, thank you so much. Unfortunately, that's all. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for him today. Thank you, Wan Hazmer, for teaching us about weaving Malaysian culture into games. Amazing time.